Hello, welcome to Cyber Witch. I'm Bishop Orley, and this is my channel about the occult, demonology, and my life as a professional witch here in New Orleans. So if that sounds good to you, please hit like and subscribe for new videos every week. Today I'm talking about what it's actually like doing witchcraft spells for other people, working seriously in magic for almost 20 years. It's definitely not something that I ever thought I would end up doing. I don't think that everyone watching this probably is interested in doing something like being a witch as a job, nor is it something that is normal in a lot of places. Like, I live in New Orleans, so in the spirit of the amazing Marie Laveau, this is very much part of the culture here in New Orleans, so it is more normalized. However, I think it is a fun curiosity to talk about, even if you aren't someone that is interested in working professionally as a witch. But there's a lot of nuances to it that I didn't expect, and this is also because I never thought I would end up doing this with my life. The spirits really did force me down this path, and people just keep asking me to help them. So that's what I do. And so now I'm here to help you if you want help getting better at doing magic, witchcraft, spells for other people, or if you are even just thinking about it and want to know, like, what would you not expect? And there's so many things that I wish I knew from when I got started doing this a number of years ago. Of course, first I'm going, before I even get into my notes for the talk today, I didn't start doing witchcraft and then immediately start doing it for other people. Definitely don't do that, because you're going to get really fucked up from the spirits and your own psychology as well, from not even understanding like how magic changes the world around you. So that's really important. So, okay, let's get into what I actually wanted to say. If you are working with spirits, and by working with spirits, I mean calling upon spirits, deities, entities, some kind of spiritual intelligent forces to help you in your life, and then also for other people, it's going to put a lot of pressure on them. So you want to be careful about putting too much pressure or demands on spirits. If you're asking an entity to help you with your life, it can be a lot to ask for, to expect them to be able to do all these other things. So it's important to really consider that and how that fits into your spiritual system in what you're doing. Like, I could see reconciling this by working with planetary forces in general, or something like the spirits of nature, but really not putting so many demands on one thing to do what you need for a job, because that can be really disrespectful. This is going to be like the main thing where we find that a lot of the things end up being like we're accidentally being disrespectful to the spirits by putting all these pressures on them, or getting them to do things that they just simply don't want to do for you, because maybe they don't actually want to help you have a job doing spells for people, if that's not right for you, if you are meant to do something else and you have a calling to that, and maybe you're evading it by having a fantasy in something that you might not be prepared to handle. Because the thing that I guess I should say before we get any deeper into this is, it is extremely challenging to do this and have this be my world that never ends. Not just because it never actually ends, but because I don't have a job anymore that's in the mundane world. Like, I used to work in an office and around, you know, normal people. Things really change when every single thing that you do is all about witchcraft and magic all the time, and you don't have anything else. But that's really beautiful. It's very exciting. And I don't know if you could hear the crows outside, but it's like in response to what I said. And those are the kind of little things that you notice when you have your psychic mind turned on all the time. So that's a huge aspect of it. It's very difficult experiencing non-ordinary reality all the time, from working, doing rituals for people. I also am a tarot reader and a psychic, so that's one of the things that I always have whirling about in my mind, and I'm always training. So that can be strange when you leave the ordinary world behind and have a completely different perspective on things that really could make you lose touch with ordinary reality. So that's something you have to be super careful about. And this is also why most of the people that I spend my time with are actually like more normal type people, like not like strange witch edgelords like me, but like just random people that are my neighbors in the community. I really like that. It really helps me understand what's going on and not get lost in some echo chamber of strangeness. So there's the pressure that you put on spirits to perform for you, and knowing if you have the actual authority to be able to ask the spirits for these favors. So that's something that I didn't know that much about when I first started doing spells for other people. And it's important to think about that in regards to what is the way that you do witchcraft. And that's obviously going to be completely different depending on what it is that you're doing, because different traditions will have different rules and it can be open or not. So you need to be respectful of that for it to be successful for you long term, just energetically, and to be able to maintain yourself by always being able to learn from your sources. So, for example, one of the things that they teach in the New Orleans style of working with Santa Muerte is that it's one thing to do like a spell to ask her to help you, to petition her for something. But if you are going to like ask her to do some spell for some person or to even be like a worker for her, there is a whole ritual that you would do to be able to ask her permission. And depending on how the ritual comes out, it's a yes or no. And it's pretty cool. It involves taking a vase of flowers and you put it outside the cemetery, well, in the cemetery gates, and then you leave. There's more to it than that. I'm just giving you a brief example of what it is in essence, just so in case people are wondering, it's not just what I'm saying. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that's part of the idea of what I'm trying to explain, is that there's a whole ritual that involves this. And so you do that, and then you come back and you see like what happened to it, and then depending on where it is, that's your answer. And so I really like things like that because it is taking it out of our hands and our ability to just imagine things, because it is like the literal world responding to you and interacting with you through the spirits. So that's really beautiful. And so, for example, so something like that, like depending on what their traditions are, maybe there's something you need to adhere to know if it's okay to actually be doing spells for other people with those spirits, if you are respecting cultures and traditions. It's super important to know about that and to think about those things. So if you don't know, then you definitely shouldn't be doing it and should learn more. That is certain. And there is a big stigma and taboo to doing rituals for people in, for those of us that came through from Thelema. And a big part of that, I think, is actually quite misconstrued. I think it is also rooted in kind of like an ignorance of how people in other cultures outside of the Western world are practicing spirituality, which is, it's very normal for people to be psychics and do spells for people in other cultures around the world, just not here in America. And where Crowley was, of course, England. And so that being said, except of course we know we had John Dee working for the Queen as her astrologer, but that is another tangent that I'm not going to go on right now. So it's important to know like where that actually comes from. Like, why do people think you shouldn't do that, or that it's disrespectful in Thelema? And that is in the AA, which is Crowley's Inner Order, which I was initiated in. There are different oaths that you say depending on your grade, and the oaths all contain different sentences. Some of them get repeated, but there's a big part of it, and you can find this information online, which involves saying that you're going to swear to teach and instruct the people that are lower than you in the order if they come to you for help. So that is very much where this idea comes from, in the more like Thelema, Aleister Crowley type of perspective in regards to doing spells and rituals for other people. It is definitely something that when I was learning magic was how people thought about it. Like, people were very upset with me when I started working professionally as a tarot reader, and people just had to get over that and realize like this is actually something that's very normal in other parts of the world. And this is back when I was being curious about it back in Toronto. So it's different in other systems of magic, but I just wanted to address that, like where that little stigma actually comes from. And so it wouldn't really actually matter unless it was someone in the AA that would come to ask for help, and it would be in regards to those things. So it's not really the same as saying that it is wrong to do magic for money. So yeah, TLDR, what I was just trying to say is Curly doesn't actually say it is wrong to do that. Okay, moving on. So knowing if a person can handle a situation and the energy from that situation, and also how it's going to affect you. So this is more stuff that I wish that I knew before I started doing spells for other people. And that is how much energy it would actually take for me to cause change in reality, not just for myself, but for others, because it's one thing to be able to have a good control over your own subjective reality and your own mind. But when we are dealing with other people, everyone's own subjective realities are mixing into the objective. So it's really important for everyone to be like on the same page with what is being done, with what we are going into, what needs to happen. And I didn't know how tired it would make me. Even doing tarot readings, oh my goodness, the very first time that I was hired to do tarot readings for a big group of people a long time ago, I was absolutely exhausted. I had no idea of how much energy that would actually take. And it's very much like that when I do spells and rituals for other people, and also when I talk to people, if it's a very high energy situation, like if I'm trying to help them deal with some kind of serious problem spiritually, which is usually the case with most of the people that I converse with in my consultations. And so, yeah, it really will affect the energy around you because everything is connected. This is a big reason why I'm so happy that I don't have kids and will never have kids, because I am dealing with a lot of very strange alien type energies, a lot of what I referred to in the last video that seems to have confused a lot of people as scary things. I mean, what do you think is scary? It's that. So I don't need to be bringing that around people that could be affected by that. So that's something that's really, really important to think about, and being considerate of other people around you and how that energy is going to affect those people. So that's why in the work that I do, it is really focused on the main stuff being helping people gain spiritual awareness, protection, lust type rituals with the succubus spirits, incubus spirits, and prosperity spells to increase affluence, creativity, all that good kind of stuff. And so it's important for me to try to fill the space around me with that kind of energy, because that will affect everything around me. And it's really hard to do things like this and keep it contained in just one tiny place. It doesn't really work like that because it's going to affect all of reality around you. It's not just like in your room, it's reality. It's going to be everywhere. So if you are doing what I used to do years and years ago, which was just take on whatever spells people were asking you to do because that was your job, that's going to really cause some crazy shit. Especially if you've never done that before and you don't know what it's going to be like. And that's why most people don't do it for a long time, or usually it's because they're just not good at it and they have to stop. Because you can only like maintain something for so long. This is also why I have a tarot business for so long, because people want to come back to me because I help them. And so, okay, you're going to want to find ways to make sure that you have enough energy for what you're doing. So that's being healthy, taking care of yourself, making sure you're resting and sleeping enough, making sure that you're staying clean and eating healthy foods and exercising, and all the kind of stuff that we can really easily forget to do because we are so focused on spiritual stuff. So it's really important to do those things when you are doing rituals that will take a lot of energy, or anything that involves any kind of heavy psychic labor. You really want to make sure that you're going to be okay physically, because it will actually really affect you and drain you so much and make you like older. So it's important to really take care of that and be aware of it. And also, it's just not easy to do that. You have to really have the drive to force yourself to do those things, because it's not going to be easy. It's not easy to do self-care when you are full of the enrapture of some sort of like mystical revelation, or even if you're in some other kind of, spiritual ordeal, you could really disassociate from the physical realm. So it's super important to take care of all that kind of stuff, especially if you are than doing spells for other people, because it's going to affect those people. Your energy is connected into what you've done for them. And so that's really essential to think about. And it's also important, like a lot of people will ask me about spells that someone may have done for them and like what's up with that. And I really can't comment on spell work done by other people at all. I have a practice of video recording the rituals that I do for people, so that way I know what I've done, they can see what I've done, and that way people can connect into that energy. I've known about people in the past where they would just pretend to do something, and that's why I like to record, because it's really important for me to at least have some sort of photography so people can connect into it, even if it's just a picture. If they don't want to watch a video, it's just like, it's important to have that connection to me where the person doesn't actually need to be there for me to do the spell for them. And that's really important. The ability to connect into a situation without actually physically being there. And that, I think, is one of the things that is so interesting to people, which is how we can connect into others' energy. Like, let's say I'm doing a tarot reading for someone over the phone, which is how I work. I can connect in and I can do an accurate reading for someone without even knowing what their question is. It's the same kind of idea when I'm doing a ritual for someone. I'm tapping into their energy. And you don't have to actually watch the ritual for it to affect you, but I do like having that little bit of extra effort, especially if I did go to all the trouble of making things really pretty. I like people to see that. So let's now talk about the judgment of a situation. So is the person actually telling you the truth about what's going on? And what if they're not? And then you are tasked to do a spell for them that's based on their lie. And you go to your spirits to help you with that situation. Do you think that's going to affect you? 100%. Either they're going to just tell you about it, or they're going to teach you some kind of lesson about this. And so that's also why I think it's really important to be really wary of this kind of thing. And I try to not do work for people where I have to make those kind of judgments. I don't like having to do that. Or I would suggest the person get on a tarot reading with me or a consultation call so I can talk to them and figure out more. Now we're going to talk about why it's actually important to have been doing rituals for a longer time before you want to go and start doing them for other people, because a lot of times it's people that get into magic and they start doing spells and then they're like, oh my god, my spell worked. I'm gonna start doing this for other people now. It's a great way to make money, and it's not. And so there's a big difference between the judgment that you're going to make getting into doing rituals for people at the beginning and then after a long period of time. One of the biggest points in time is going to be like after 6-7 years. That's when you really see if it's going to break people. And then after I would say like maybe 15 years, that's when you know someone's actually really going to be truly serious and could handle the long-term results of magic, because there is a big difference between what happens in a short period of time and a long period of time. And you have to really know and understand that and how that works, because things will and can happen in a short period of time, but it's not going to be as dramatic or as important as what happens extended over a longer period of time. So what's the difference in that? And of course, we can get spells to happen faster depending on the situation, but that's not what this is about. This is more about the time when things are manifesting and how it's not just going to be one thing that just happens and it's just that. It's knowing that it will be like stuff starts happening and then over years and years, it is going to keep happening and changing. You don't have to do huge, grand rituals all the time to achieve your goals. You could have a simple devotion that's very dedicated and loving, and then do special, bigger things every once in a while. And that's completely fine because it's what's maintaining your energy overall. It's like the difference between going to see like your grandma for the holidays a couple times a year versus going to see her all the time just because you love her. And how is she going to actually feel about that? And look at your spirituality in that way. And I think that's really important for people to think about, because a lot of people kind of do it like that, where it's like the holidays or because you need something or need help with something. And it will make a greater difference if you're doing spells with spirits that you have a very deep connection with, or if that person has a very deep connection with them and they're serious about being dedicated with that spirit. It's always going to work better than someone who doesn't want to have anything to do with spirituality at all and you're just doing rituals for them. Sometimes it really will require that person to have some kind of devotion for it to work and be possible, because it needs to get into that world. And that's another thing that you would really learn about the difference and how to advise these situations. And that's why it's important to think about the results in periods of time, because that's how you're going to think about, what do I need to do to help this person in that situation? Thinking about what could realistically happen in a short period of time, and then what would realistically happen in a long period of time, and then trying to figure out what it is that you need to do in order to set things up for that. And it's not always going to be like one thing. And that's something that's super important to think about. Okay, so the difference between spells in a short time and a long time is your judgment and your awareness of what actually needs to happen. And your patience is going to be such a skill to develop, because if you don't have that, then you're definitely not going to be able to handle doing this kind of stuff, because Spirit's going to be like, what do you mean I'm not doing this fast enough? We work in the perfect way and the perfect time, so why are you demanding this? And then you could get messed up from putting demands on them to make somebody else happy, and that's really not the kind of spiritual practice you want to be having. So you need to help people with the mindset that energy will create reality by projecting it into the reality around us, and then how people change over time through that. So what I mean by this is, I wish I knew that it is important to help people understand how our mental process affects reality around us and what we're trying to hold in that energy. So you have to really think about that. And is the spell that you're doing creating that kind of energy? What do you actually need to focus on in order for the results to actually be able to be possible? And once this happens, like once what you've desired for has manifested, what is your mind going to go to next? Because for a lot of people, this can be almost like a desperate chasm where you have something that you want and then you're able to get it through doing some kind of magic. And then suddenly you just keep wanting more and more and go insane, or something bad happens to you because you're not keeping things stable in your life. And it's really important to think about, how are you going to evolve along with the work that's being done, and to help people by guiding them into that kind of mindset. Like, what do they need to be thinking about in order for the spell you're doing for them to be able to be successful? What do they need to focus on to cause change in their life to make it possible for these things to actually occur? Because if we are actually doing real magic, the idea is it will affect all of the forces around us in our regular, ordinary life. More often in ordinary means than through something paranormal or a dream or a sensation or a vision or a sound or something supernatural. It's really important to help guide people into the mindset of the reality where what they want can actually manifest, help them figure out the logical next steps of what they need to do instead of just waiting around for something to happen to them in a passive way, not changing the routine at all. Typically isn't going to change your life. So you have to be going out of your way to be making life happen in a way that can actually cause results, and helping teach people that and understand the difference between actual magic and the fantasy that somebody might have from watching movies or anime and stuff like that in games. So it's really important to help people know the process of how magic works and what to expect with actual real magic, and what they're going to want to do to help stuff to actually manifest. Very often, there is going to be at least one thing that the person could do. It's either going to be something in their personal life routine that they're going to change in the mundane world, or some spiritual aspect about themselves. Maybe it's spending time every day doing like a simple meditation or invocation ritual, or writing your dreams down further, some kind of aspect that you can do to cause change in your reality to help the spell take hold without obsessing and dwelling on it. And that's the other thing that's really important, which is understanding and helping the person understand that if you're going to be focusing and obsessing on a spell that you've done, it's going to make it way harder for that spell to work, because your own mind could even be working against you. So that's really essential, to really focus on what's next. What am I going to do next? Now, what do I do? Just see it as done. It's going on in the background. Spirits are working, perfect way, perfect time, going on, doing what they need to do. We trust in them because we're devoted, and we know that it will take whatever time it needs for amazing things to actually be able to happen. I don't say this because I like to live in an illusion. I'm saying this because this is what actually works. And I'm trying to help people understand this at the whim of all those who like to think I'm insane for telling people that this is real, but it really is. So that's fun, but it takes a lot of work. It's fun to think that reality is different, but it's also really scary. And I think that's the biggest part of the work, which is realizing that. Because what's scary about it is that there's so much more to it than we can even decipher or comprehend or even wrap our heads around. But when you put work into your life to cause change into reality around you, you can see results if you are dedicated over a long period of time. And definitely have that in your knowing before you go doing it for other people, because you need to all be in this together. And for you to be confident in what you're doing in your life, to be able to extend that to other people. It's also really important to have essential aspects of your life together in the physical world to be able to maintain and handle the stress and energy of doing spell work for other people. Because there's always people that need help and are going through a very difficult time. And so you need to be strong and be able to handle all of that and to be able to handle their darkness without it corrupting you or dragging you down or causing chaos and discord in the life around you just by connecting into that energy. So you have to be really careful and mindful of that and keep yourself constantly learning and growing as a spiritual practitioner, because that way there will always be something for you to expand yourself upon, so you keep getting stronger, so things can never overwhelm you. And that's really important to think about when you're trying to figure out how to move forward. If you're struggling and feeling like you don't know what else to do, you don't know what else to learn, everything just isn't working for you anymore, the answer is really learn something new. Learn something new. Or instead of doing spells for other people, do spells with other people where your energy and their energy can combine together, and then you can help one another to grow and expand past any kind of plateau that you may find yourself on. So the last thing that I wish I knew before I started doing spells for other people is realizing how important it was to help people plan their lives beyond the ritual and how to know what to do next. So sometimes if there's a whole situation that you're helping somebody with, it's going to require more than one spell to be done. Maybe there's one step and then there's another. It can be a lot to just ask for some whole super grand thing in one time. It might not be possible. Things might require stages for it to even be able to actually happen. So like I've talked about before, try to think about it in that way. So maybe what the person is asking for is unrealistic. And very often you will find people coming to you with things that are unrealistic. So if it's not something that's physically possible and you know that, or if you talk to the person and you know they're not capable of this ever actually happening, you have to convey that. It's really important that you can't do that. And also to think about, what are you going to do to help that person know what to do next in their life once they actually have that? So maybe it's better to learn how to actually do the spells in these kind of cases. Sometimes, yes, let's say you are reaching out to get like a protection spell or a spell to help connect with a certain kind of entity that you've really been fond of, and you want someone that's a professional like myself to help you get a deeper connection with the pact. If you don't have the facilities and ability to make that happen, I can do that for you and help you do things on your end in your own personal way that you are able and capable of to make that sealed on your end. Sometimes people need to go to someone else for help in a situation, even witches. Even I will go to other people for tarot readings, just even though I'm a tarot reader, because it's always nice to have another person's perspective on things or to have another person's help in a situation, especially if it's somebody that you really respect. So it's really helpful to think about learning how to actually do spells. And this is why I try to focus more on teaching people how to do rituals through the methods that I've developed than do the rituals for people. So yes, I do rituals for people. That's available on my website. It's a custom ritual page. You can see all the list of the types of spells that I do for people and the types of spells that I won't do for people. Don't argue with me about it. You're not going to change my mind. And you will see all the different video courses that I have. So for example, if you have big plans for your life and you have a lot of things that need to change, it's probably best to learn how to summon demons for yourself and do magic, because there's going to be a whole bunch of different things that you want to do. So that's why I have the Goetia course to summon demons on my website. It's a very professional, advanced, and detailed video class that takes you step by step through someone like myself who's an infernalist but has also studied the grimoires to learn what are the technical things to build a ritual where we can really contact these extremely powerful beings, to develop a psychic connection to them so we can contact them more easily later and ask them to help us. And then, of course, my personal teachings and methods for the incubus and succubus spirit conjurations. Sometimes people want to conjure more than one of these spirits, so I also thought it would be a great idea to put all my teachings together in a video course for people where you can learn all about them and my methods for conjuring them and how you can do that yourself. And you can find all of that stuff on my website in case you want that. And I hope that this gave you some food for thought if you are interested in the world of doing rituals for other people. It's definitely not for the faint of heart because it gets very, very strange. You live in a constant world of magic and non-ordinary reality. Please check out my website for all the video courses and all the other work that I do, my tarot readings. It's really the best way to help support this channel, as well as thank you to my patrons and channel members. If you have any other tips that you think that I may have missed, please feel free to let me know in the comments of this video, and please hit like and subscribe. That would really mean so much to me. And I'll see you next time. Bye.